Hello there guys, it's me and Stable Voltage. Today I'm going to be having a little look at Formula 1 2016, the latest Formula 1 officially licensed game from Codemasters, who are both the developer and the publisher. And this is the third game, I believe, in the Formula 1 series that Codemasters have developed. I must admit that I'm more used to playing racing games on a console, and it's only been over the last couple of years that I've really started playing my PC games, my racing games on a PC. But I've been playing the Formula 1 series of games for about, I don't know, it must be 20 years. I think the first one I ever played, it was either 96 or 98. It was one of those two, I can't really remember, but nearly 20 years ago anyway. And I thought I would have a quick look at F1 2016, because I was given a copy of it by Codemasters. I've been playing this for the last week or so, and trying out some of the different tracks and some of the different game modes, and so far I'll start off by saying I'm actually quite impressed with what I've seen. There are a few issues that I'm not 100% thrilled with that I do think need fixing, but I'll go through and show you guys what I think this game is all about. Now, I'm actually playing it with an Xbox 360 controller. You can play it with a racing wheel, which is probably the ideal way to play it, but I don't have one. And you can play it with the mouse and keyboard, but I would recommend against that simply because you won't have the level of fine control that you really need for taking corners and accelerating. So let's have a quick look at the game options. There's actually quite a lot in here that you can choose from. So first of all, you can customize the controls. You've got force feedback enabled for force feedback wheels if you have them. You can also set the vibration. If we go and look in the control schemes, you can see we can change the input device between the Xbox controller and the keyboard. Like I said, I don't have a racing wheel. You have some controller presets, but you can create custom ones as well. So there are a couple of presets, and then you can actually make some custom ones. I'll just use the preset. If we go in and actually have a look at the audio settings, so you'll see you've got different audio volume sliders for a lot of different things on there, so you can really fine-tune and tweak the audio. Now, there is speech in the game. Most of what you will actually hear comes from your race engineer during the race. Now, one thing that I have noticed some other people complaining about is the lack of commentary. Now, there is commentary in the game, but it's pretty much pre-race and post-race commentary. There's no commentary during the race. And let's be honest, the commentary on the F1 games hasn't been anywhere near as good since the days of Murray Walker and Martin Brundle. So I don't mind so much that the commentary is not really there. But also what you've got to remember is the idea of the game is it's supposed to be immersive, and as a racing car driver, you don't actually hear the commentators. The only thing you hear in your ear is the chatter between the race engineers, so you don't really need the commentary, and I think it works quite well without it. You've also got the advanced audio settings that you can just really things like push to talk, what type of speaker system you've got, and how much radio chatter you hear, and so on and so forth. Most importantly, of course, probably the graphics options. If we look in the video mode, you can see the options here are quite limited, but you've got AA and anisotropic filtering. But if we go into the advanced setup, there is a huge list of things that you can choose. So I'm just running this game on high. I am running an i7, I can't remember even what my processor is now, but it's an i7 3.2 gigahertz processor, 12 gigabytes of RAM with a GeForce 770 video card. So I've got everything running on high, and it's working quite well for me. Also, you have the, where are we, the on-screen display, and you can tweak and fine-tune an awful lot of what you actually see on the screen. So what your speed and temperature units are in, exactly which things are shown on the screen, proximity arrows, driver tags, tutorial notifications, a lot of useful stuff in on there. So let's get out the options menu and go and have a look at the games. As you can see, there's quite a few different things that you can choose from. So first of all, you've got your career. Career allows you to create your own custom driver, and you basically start off by picking a team you want to race for, and you're given a number of objectives, and you have, depending on which team you start with, so many years to actually win the championship. You can also just play a single season if you wish. You can just play a quick race. You've got multiplayer and you've got time trial. So all the options in there that you would pretty much expect. Just going to go and jump into a quick race here. And we can back up because I actually want to choose which race we do. Where are we? Game options. Advance. They're going to let me do this race. I think it was one that I started. Start a new quick race. There we go. It was one that I was messing around with the other day. So, going to quick race, you can choose which of the tracks that you want to do your racing on. What would be a good one? One that I know at least half well, hopefully. I know Abu Dhabi, I know Australia, Bahrain. Bahrain's a nice track. So we'll go and add... You can add multiple tracks if you wish to. So as you can see, we get a little bit of a track video there that tells us a bit about the circuit. But let's go ahead and advance. So now we get to choose which team we want to race for. So let's just go ahead and pick Hamilton. This is one of the things I'd like to point out about graphics. Generally in this game, I actually think the graphics are quite good. But you'll notice that the models that they've used for the drivers don't really look all that realistic. I mean, you can certainly tell who they're supposed to be, but they're not exactly all that highly detailed. And the same goes for the career mode. When you create your own driver, you don't really have a lot of choice about the different face types and skin tones and things you can choose. There's quite a bit of customization with the helmets, which obviously when you're driving around in the car, the only thing you really see is the helmet that's on the driver. But yeah, as you can see, the models aren't really all that detailed and realistic. It doesn't really matter though, because the cars look really good. Let's go ahead and we'll just grab Hamilton just for the sake of taking a driver. So you get a number of different things that you can choose from, depending on how you've got your settings for the race. So if we just go in and look at preferences here, you can see if we look in race settings, I've just got everything set on easy for the purposes of doing this video and making it nice and easy on me. So I've got the AI driver set to easy, but you can turn that up and it goes all the way up to ultimate. So there's quite a lot of different difficulty levels you can set from very easy all the way up to ultimate there. You can also have flashbacks on. What flashback allows you to do, that has been in the previous few games, is basically if you make a mistake on the track, which does happen sometimes, what you can do is you can basically pause, rewind and replay from a point before you had the accident. You can enable or disable part ferme rules, which basically means that once you have finished your qualifying session, you're not allowed to make any changes to the car, except changing tyres for weather conditions. So if you qualify when it's dry and the race is raining, you're allowed to change your tyres under part ferme conditions. There's full vehicle damage on. You've got simulation vehicle damage as well, or you can have it on reduced. You can have a safety car on. It's not available on all race types. But yet it is possible to get the safety car out in case of a yellow flag. You can determine how severe the penalty is for cutting corners. If you have it on regular, it does give you a little bit of leeway. If you do go off the track slightly, put it on strict and you will find yourself getting penalised with penalties and drive-through penalties for going off the track and cutting the corners. Also, if you're doing a race in the career or through the championship, you can actually turn the formation laps on. So you actually have to drive in around in a formation lap, heat up your tyres, get into the grid in the right position and ready to start. And you've also got the option for manual race starts as well. So instead of the assisted race starts, like most of these games have, where you basically just hold down the accelerator until the lights go on green, on a manual start, you basically have to hold in the clutch, get the revs right, and release the clutch. It's a little bit tricky, but it's quite fun to do. Now, one thing that I will point out as a negative about this game, one of the things that I don't like, and they've never been able to get this working correctly in Formula 1 games, and it's made me think of it because of the safety car, is the yellow flag rule. Quite often you'll be racing around and all of a sudden there'll be a yellow flag, which doesn't happen very often because the AI drivers hardly ever crash into each other, even if the weather's bad and the track conditions are bad. But you'll get a yellow flag and then within a couple of seconds there'll be a green flag. And, you know, in a real race, if there's a yellow flag incident, it might take several minutes for the track to be cleared. That doesn't happen in the game, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having yellow flags if it's going to go yellow and then to green almost instantly. But those are the race options there. You also have a huge list of assists. So you've got your braking assist. You can turn anti-lock brakes on and off. Traction control. You can have the dynamic racing line on so that you can actually see where to go. You can also turn it off and just have it on corners only, or you can turn it off completely. You can have it on an automatic or a manual gearbox. You can also have pit assist, which basically means as you enter the pit lane, it'll automatically hit the pit speed limiter so that you don't go into the pit speeding. So if you go into pit speeding, you get penalised. So we'll have that on just for the sake of this video. And you've also got the weather. So you can have the weather on dynamic. You can also customise what the weather is doing as well. So you can change it between clear, light, cloud, overcast, light rain, and heavy rain. And one thing I will say for this game, one thing that it does very well with the graphics, it really does give you a sense of what the weather is like. If you have bad weather, it really feels like there is bad weather coming up. We can also allocate the weekend tyres. Normally this will be done automatically for you, and your race engineers will allocate which tyres you're going to be using based on the type of track, but you can change that yourself. You can actually choose what practice types you have, so you can either have a single practice session or you can have all 3 practice sessions, and you can run them between 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or the full 90, 90 and 60 minutes each. The good thing is with the practice sessions, particularly if you're playing through a career or a championship, is you actually have little missions to do during the practice sessions, such as completing various fast laps, hitting check marks around the track to prove that you can stay on the racing line, doing several laps without wearing your tyres out too heavily. And you score points for doing all of these, and those points are then converted into upgrade points that you can use to improve your engine and various parts on the car as the season goes on. And that's something that I really, really like. I'm going to turn the practice off for the sake of doing this video, because I just want to jump in and show you a race. You can do qualifying, so you can have one-shot qualifying where you basically just do 1 lap and it's done. And then you've got short qualifying or full qualifying. I think we'll actually do the qualifying session. We'll go ahead and do 3 laps. So let's jump in and start the session. Obviously, you can choose the different number of laps that you do. Now this is like one of the little intros you get. Now there isn't much music in this game as far as sound design goes. I mean, yeah, the commentary, what little of it is there is good. The sound design of the actual cars and the atmosphere is very good. The music, there isn't really much of it, so don't get too excited about that.
We hope you're ready as qualifying is about to begin here in Bahrain. When it comes to getting lap time out of this circuit, it's traditionally been about maximizing top speed. Do you simply remove as much downforce as possible, hang on into the corners and max out down the straights?
The teams will have arrived with all manner of parts designed to capitalize on the long straights. The cars will be that much harder to drive in the corners, but everyone will be in the same boat.
So, as you can see, the character models, like I said, are a little bit hinky, and the commentary that you get pre-race and post-race, it's not going to take an awfully long time before you've heard it all before. So we're going to go out on a balanced setup, so you can choose a default setup, but you can also go in and customize it if you want. You can actually change your individual downforce. You can also change things like the transmission, your suspension, your brakes, your tires, your weight distribution. You can fiddle around with all those options if you want, but we're going to go in with balance. We'll go in on the super soft tires because they're the best ones for doing the qualifying lap. So we're going to go and start off. It'll put us out on a flying start here, and as you can see, we have the racing line set to 1, so we are over the line. Now my commentary might be all over the place, and so might my driving, because I'm trying to concentrate on 2 things at once. I went a little bit wide there because I just thought to myself I was on the wrong camera angle, not the one that I'm usually on, but I will deal with it. So we're going to go and hopefully try and get a fast lap in, even though I managed to go off the track there. So you can see the ghost car of the second fastest driver, which is also useful. And that's a good thing if you're actually doing multiplayer and time trials, because you can actually save your time trial profiles as a ghost car, and you can race against other people over Steam using ghost car information, which is something that I really, really like. If you want to test out your ability against other drivers without necessarily having to play a multiplayer game. Just building up into the DRS zone, just trying to remember the track as well. So we'll hit the DRS, because you're allowed to use your DRS during the qualifying lap. So there'll be another DRS zone as well just before we reach the checkered flag. So we'll try and get around. I do have it set on very easy, of course, at the moment, so it's not too difficult to get the fastest lap. There are braking assists, anti-lock brakes, and various other things that will help me out. So as you can see, this is a nice clear sunny day. The sun is shining nicely off everything. It's shining off the car, it's shining off the scenery. The sky is nice and clear and blue. Everything looks really, really good. And here's the final DRS zone. We'll pop that there, go over the line, hopefully get a first place. Yep, and indeed we do. We get a first. So as you can see, there are also various different camera angles as well.
The grid is all set then for the race tomorrow.
And you see I won that by a clear 3.5 seconds, so that's quite good. So let's just go straight into the race then. We'll also get a little bit of pre-race fluff. As usual, we get this little sort of cutscene, which will be followed by some banter about the race. And of course, we'll get the grid rundown as well. Probably also get the rundown on the circuit.
Constructors come and go, drivers rise and fall. But even as politics change and history moves on, the spirit of competition burns as strongly as it ever has. Welcome back then to Formula One, as battle is joined at the summit of motorsport once again. Formula One returns to the desert today on this exceptional 3.36 mile circuit. 15 corners provide plenty of overtaking opportunities, and 2 DRS zones.
Obviously, this being Bahrain, it's the desert, so it's unlikely that it's ever going to rain here.
Notorious for eating up the rear tyres. Watch out for drivers managing their rubber at some points during the Grand Prix. I won't be commentating alone today, of course. Nope, I have the honour to share this commentary box with none other than Anthony Davidson. And you and I were talking earlier today about how tight that midfield battle is compared to the last couple of years. Why do you think that is?
Well, I suppose the main reason is simply stability in the regulations. Look at what we had.
Now, one thing you might have just noticed there is that there was a slight stutter in the graphics. Now, that is something that I've noticed happen several times. It just did it again right there as well. And I'm just going to skip this and get into the race. It'll give us the grid rundown here in a second. So as you can see, it gives you the grid. But I'm just going to advance into the race because I want to pause up because there's something that I want to talk about. So this issue with the game sort of hitching every now and again, I've had it happen several times to me, and it seems to be pretty consistent. Now, I don't have this game installed on an SSD. I've got it on a mechanical hard drive. Now, I don't know whether or not that is the issue. I haven't actually tried it on the SSD because I don't have that big of an SSD. However, there's a lot of people who don't actually play using, or don't actually have an SSD and have their games installed on a mechanical hard drive. If it's a streaming problem, streaming data from a mechanical hard drive, that's really, really bad, because the problem is it'll always hitch when you're on a corner or you're trying to overtake somebody, and basically you'll be trying to turn around a corner or trying to get past another car, and all of a sudden the game will freeze up, and then by the time it unfreezes, you've gone off the track or you've hit the other car. Now, speaking of hitting the other cars, this is another problem that it has. It has the same problem that a lot of the Formula 1 games have had previously, where the AI cars will basically make contact with you as if you're not even there. And whether you hit another car or whether another car hits you, you always seem to be the one that gets penalised for it. So often you can be on the racing line and you'll have the racing line around a corner and another driver will basically crash into you and you'll get the penalty, which is something that I really don't like. But let's go ahead and start the race. We don't have a formation lap, so we're going to hold down the clutch, which is the gear up button. Now we're going to partially hold in the throttle. And I've actually got a jump start there because I went too early because I was too busy talking and not really watching what I was doing. So let's just go and restart so I can hopefully show you that without getting a penalty. Now, it is actually possible to stall the car as well. So hold in the clutch, hold down the revs, which is why you really need an analog controller, not a mouse and keyboard. And then as soon as the race starts, release the clutch and hold down the accelerator. So that wasn't one of my best starts ever. Now, what we can do, if I actually take that corner better, I'm trying to mess around with the multifunction display. So if you look down in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see I have this multifunction display, which every time I press the B button, it gives me certain information about my car, such as the fuel mix, the differentials, the downforce, what tyres I'm going to have on next. I can cycle through it and I can see what my tyre wear is like. I can cycle through it again and I can see what my tyre and brake temperatures and engine temperatures like. I can do it again to get certain information, such as things like my pit window and how much fuel I have remaining. If we press it again, we get rid of it. Now, one thing that you do have is the ability to communicate with your race engineer, and it's really, really difficult to do while you're trying to race around the track. And you basically do that by pressing the L1 button. So I can ask for a race update. So that's pretty much the majority of the chatter that you're going to hear throughout the game. Now, you don't have to manually engage with the race engineer all the time. The race engineer will give you information when it's pertinent, like if your tyres are wearing, if they think you should come in for a pit stop. Every now and then they will say they've got a different race strategy. Do you want to consider that? And most of the time, when it's relevant, they will actually speak to you. However, there will be some times when, like for example, they will say, okay, we've got a different strategy in mind. Do you want to keep with the current strategy, or do you want to switch to the new one? And then while you're driving around, you've basically got to hit the L1 button. There's one of those hitches there, right on the corner, if you saw that. So, luckily, I managed to keep it going around the corner, but that is one of those problems that I have been having. So, like I said, you'll get a race engineer asking if you want to change strategy, and then while you're driving around, you've basically got to hit L1. You've got to try and read what the different strategy is by looking at the box in the corner, because it doesn't actually tell you verbally. You've got to read the box. Then you've got to use the D-pad to select which option you want, and then hit the D-pad to the right to select that option. So it's a little bit tricky. You always really want to be on a straight before you start using any of these options. And there's quite a few different things you can choose from, and I think it really has to be one of those things where you learn the list off by heart, because you can't really look down at that list while you're driving. I mean, I've got no appreciation for Formula 1 drivers and their ability to basically micromanage their MFDs on their wheel while they're driving around. Obviously, if they want to talk to their race engineer, they just press the comms button and speak to the engineer. They don't have to select what they want to say from a list. It does make things a little bit difficult, so... But it's certainly a fun game. Physically, I think the actual game handles quite well. The physics are good. The cars feel nice and heavy. They feel quite balanced on the corners. Again, there's another one of those hitches, which is slightly problematic. Again, I do have the assists on, so they are helping with some of the corners at the moment. But they sort of feel how you'd expect a car to feel. It grips the road quite nicely. As you can see there, we're getting information from our race engineer that the DRS has been enabled because we were on the third lap. Cut the corner slightly there, but again, that hitching happened right as I was about to go around the corner. And there have been a few times where I've lost places or gone off the track completely because such a thing has happened. I want to finish this race because it's only 3 laps long, and it'll give me the opportunity just to show you the race ending ceremony. And then I'll probably just load up one of the other tracks and just show you guys what it's like during the bad weather, because I think the weather effects in this game are actually really, really good, and I like them a lot. I think if you don't actually do the qualifying, you'll always start in first place on a quick race anyway. So let's just go in. We're actually almost at the end of the lap anyway. And we'll pick somewhere that might have a good chance of rain. So somewhere, well, we can set the rain manually anyway, but we'll pick another track. Somewhere like China or Russia. So let's go and get around off here. But yeah, I do like the way that the car handles. If you hit barriers or hit other cars, they do go with a good thud. I think the graphics overall look very, very nice. I mean, once again, it is a racing game. I mean, there's only so much you can do with the graphics. You've got the heat haze that comes from the engine if you want to play in this more sort of zoomed out look. You've got the wing view, you've got the nose cone view, you've got the driver view as well. I always prefer this view, which is slightly above the driver's head. It just makes it easier to see a bit more of the track ahead of you. You can't really do that when you are right down on the road. So unless you know the tracks very, very well. Again, you'll notice that the game's hitching in several points there. I've already crossed the line, so it doesn't really matter because I'm not in control of the car at this point. But that is really, and again there it's just happening, really is reminiscent of something that happens quite a lot during the game. Now, admittedly, I am recording at the moment, so the game is streaming the video footage to a hard drive, although it's actually streaming it to a different drive. I am noticing this hitching slightly more here than I would normally notice during the course of a normal race, but it does give a good example of what I'm experiencing.
And that's exactly what happened. Their car just looks so comfortable out there.
So at the end of every race, you just get a little bit of post-commentary, and then the drivers will come out onto the podium, be presented with the trophy. You will get a sort of little victory celebration animations, which is what are going on here. There's only about 2 or 3 of these animations, and whichever drivers are on the podium, they don't have their own individual sort of victory celebrations. Doesn't matter who's up there, it's the same mocap stuff for all 3 drivers that are on the podium. So it again, once you've seen them a couple of times, you're like, okay, well, I've seen all that and I don't need to see it anymore. So, oh, even managed to get an achievement there. Brilliant. So let me just go and show you what the game is like during the wet weather, because I think that is really, really good. Let's go ahead and good chance we'll crash in Russia because there's a lot of tight, close walls. We'll go ahead and we'll grab one of the Ferraris this time. Let's get Seb, and this time we'll actually go and change our weather. So we'll go and put the weather on to, I think light rain is fine. And we don't actually want it on qualifying. We want the race to be on light rain. Thank you very much. Don't actually want the qualifying. I just want to go straight into the race. So we'll be on wet tyres. Now, well, we'll be on intermediates probably if it's light rain. So you do have the game has pretty much all of the tyre types in there. You've got your ultra softs, which aren't used all that often. Your super softs, your mediums, your hards, your intermediates, and your wets. So you've got a good tyre choice. So it uses the proper tyre usage rules as well, which can be a little bit complicated, but it is something that the game pretty much manages for you. So it's very rare that you will ever actually have to decide which tyres you want to use. So as you can see, it's quite grey and overcast. Now the rain effects are very, very nice. Oh, we didn't actually start at the front, but we are on the front of the grid. That's good. So let's go ahead and just start this race. So we can change the car setup because we haven't done qualifying. There is no part firme. So if we want to, we can go and loading some car settings. So you can tweak it on the grid, but we don't need to do that. We're just going to go ahead and start the race. So as before, we're going to hold down the clutch. We are going to get optimal revs. And I jumped through again. I keep doing that. It's absolutely terrible. Let me just go ahead and restart. Yeah. Are you not going to let me restart this time around? You're not, are you? Okay, fine. We'll just go through. Under investigation already for jumping the gun, but fine. I think it's just because I'm commentating. I think out of all the races I've done, I've only really managed to screw that up like once or twice, so it does take a little bit of concentration. I feel like Formula 1 racing lights are designed to troll you, really, because they all come on at a consistent rate, and then you're waiting, and then all of a sudden, they all just go off, and it's like, oh, damn, time to go. So let's get around this track. I can show you guys the pit stop. Unfortunately, you don't really see the pit animations all that well now. Although, to be fair, normally when I go into the pit, I'm actually in the sort of driver's cockpit mode. So I'll zoom out a little bit so you can actually see the view as we go in. Because we've got a drive through, so I don't know whether or not we will actually do anything in the pits. But it'd be nice to actually see the pit stop animation. I've got no intention of completing this race, actually. But I do like the rain effects. I mean, the car does feel very slippy in the water. You also get sort of vibrations on the joypad if you are sort of putting full lock on or accelerating or braking too hard around the corners. You do actually feel that wear on the tyres. Let's just go and say I want to pit in this lap. And hopefully they will allow me to pit in. We do have a drive-through penalty. But I just want to go into the pits and show you guys what the pits and pit animations are like. Now, if you're actually doing the practice sessions, you do actually get wheeled in and out of the garage. And I'll probably show you guys one of those if we can. You don't actually see the proper pit stops there. We do have to go into the pits here. I'm going to go and zoom out a little so we can see what's happening now. We do have to follow the race line around. See, I've gone out of the pit there. Cut the corner, got told off for that. Now, it just put us back into the cockpit whenever we go into the pits, so... Is this just going to be the drive-through penalty, or are we actually pitting in? Obviously, it's the fastest lap, because we were the first car over the line. Okay, so let's get out there and try and actually do a proper pit stop this time around then. Going to be a little bit difficult now, because we're in the middle of a lot of traffic. But you should be able to see now how the AI behaviour works. So as you can see, they do actually try and get around one another. They don't necessarily try very hard. Most of the time they do stick to the racing line. I've also noticed if you're lapping other cars, they don't always respect the blue flag either. And they're quite easy to overtake on the easier difficulty level. You can often just cut them inside the corners. Again, I went off the track a little bit there. Very, very slippy. Looks like the rain's actually starting to get a little bit heavier here. Obviously, there's no DRS because the track's too wet. So we're going to get onto a nice straight. And again, because we're not at the front, we're actually getting some... Well, sliding an awful lot there. Had to hit my brakes quite hard to avoid going into the Back of my teammate there. Again, just pile on the anchors. What I want to try and do is get on a nice straight so that I can work the radio and say that I want to pit in on this lap. So at least it's just L1 right. So once you start to remember what the layout is of those things, it makes life a little bit easier. And I'm going to try and pit in and see if we get the animation for that. Obviously, pit stops are a lot quicker now than they used to be anyway. You know, tyres are on and off within a couple of seconds. Most of the time lost in the pit stops is actually the time driving in and driving out. So, but we have said that we would like to pit in. On this easier difficulty level, the AI drivers are very, very cautious going around some of these corners. I really have to brake where I wouldn't normally brake. So let's see if we can get into the pits this time. This time without cutting over the pit line. There we go. Now I can hold the accelerator and it will automatically slow me down when we get there. As you can see, once again, it has put the car into the in-cockpit lap. So there's no real way to see what's going on, but you can see the animations going on around you, and that's it. You're in and out, you're done. No little mini-game like there used to be in some of the older Formula 1 games where you had to mess around hitting buttons to get the timing right. I can't remember which of them it was, whether it was 15 or 14, but there was definitely one of the F1 games where you had to hit buttons on the controller that corresponded with the different tyre stations and the fuel stations. Actually, so it must have been slightly even older than that then, because they haven't done refueling for a while. But yeah, there was certainly a few games that used to have those little mini games in the pit stops, and they were quite annoying. My tyres are cold now because I've just got new tyres on. It's making it a little bit more difficult to get some grip. The car is sliding slightly more. We are at the very back of the pack right now. There's only one lap left to go. We've been into the pits twice. You can get away to a certain degree with cutting corners. No, okay. Sometimes it catches you out, sometimes it doesn't. I think normally if you cut the corner without gaining the position, you're fine, depending on how much you cut. But it is very easy to sort of squeeze past other drivers, which is what I was trying to do. I was going to have a go and see how many cars I could get in front of before the race ended, given that we're at the back of the pack. Again, if I had this on a high difficulty level, the other drivers would be well away. The game does use the rubber banding technique, so if you got it on easy difficulty levels, the cars in front of you do seem to slow down a little bit, and if you've got it on the higher difficulty levels, then they don't seem to do that quite as much. Left my braking very, very late there. A few more corners to go around. Always risky trying to sort of force your way through. Very messy bit of track. Very sloppy racing from me. We're really not going to get anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and quit from this session. So I just want to show you guys the sort of practice mode, and then we'll call it done. So while I'm doing that, I'll just say what I think about the game. Overall, I actually quite like it. I think it is a really good game. Most of the things with it I am happy with. The only things that I do dislike at the moment are the problems with the game hitching. I'm really not sure what it is that is causing that. It could just be that I've got it on a mechanical hard drive instead of an SSD. Let's go ahead and put the weather on to dynamic, and we want to have a practice type on. We'll just have a single session, that's absolutely fine, and we'll go ahead and we will start. So yeah, I like the graphics of the game, although the character models do look a little bit poor. The sound of the game is generally good. There's not much commentary from the actual race commentators, but I think that is absolutely fine. So this is in the pits now. This is what happens on the practice session. As you can see here, that we can look around. We can go to our setup. We'll basically be given the data pad where we can go and choose what tyres we want. We can also change the car settings here while we are in the pits. What we can also do is we can go into the session info. Now, all you can see things on here, you can just see our live timings. There's live TV feed, so if there's any other cars out on the track, you can see what they're doing. So what we can do, if we just accelerate time a little bit, let's just put it up to, I don't know, 30 speed is the fastest it will go. Get a few cars out on the track. There we go. There's a few cars out there now. So if we go onto live TV feed, we can watch a few of the cars going around the track. There are replay modes. So once you've actually run a race, you can actually watch it from the television camera perspective if you so wish to do. And like I said, if we're actually playing in a career or championship, we would have the option to try one of three different practice mode objectives. So the first practice mode objective is track familiarity, where you have to basically follow the racing line and hit some check marks around the track at a certain speed. The second one is tyre wear. You have to do a certain number of laps around the track without wearing your tyres over excessively. And then the third type is basically completing a flying qualifying style lap. And there will also be some random team objectives that you get each practice session, which might be get 3 consecutive fast laps, or get the fastest speed in the first, second or third sector, or just various different things for you to do that will give you points that you can spend on upgrading the car. Obviously there is no upgrading with the car on quick races. We can actually look at the different weather, but that is fine. So what we're going to go and do is we can just go out onto the track here. So if I just go onto the track, we can drive out or flying lap. Just to show you guys the animations. The animations aren't actually all that bad. There's quite a lot of messing around there when you're waiting to get in and out of the pits, and it's not so much the getting out of the pits that I have the problem with, but there is one thing that really does annoy me, and that's getting into the pits and how long it takes before you're actually allowed to go and interact with any of your settings again. So let me just go and demonstrate that. We'll just do one lap and then we're going to pit straight in. So we'll just see if we can get our way around Australia without... again, on that corner, it hitched, and that's what made me go off. So there's definitely some problem going on. Now, what I have found is that the issue will go away if you restart the race. I've had a couple of races where the start of the race off the grid, it's hitched on the first couple of corners. So I've restarted the race a couple of times, and that's solved the problem. So it could just be a loading issue. But I've got more than enough memory for the entire game to be loaded into the memory and into the video memory, so really not too sure what. I've got nothing else running in the background. Obviously at the moment I've got my recording software running, which is just NVIDIA Shadowplay, so it doesn't have a huge hardware overhead. But I have had these issues when I've not been recording, so with nothing else running in the background apart from standard stuff like your antivirus and Steam. And it still had these problems. So that's my main beef with the game. If I've got one issue with the game, it's that hitching, because that could potentially spoil the game for a lot of people. Yes, I've got a problem with the way that the AI drivers, and again, it just happened just there. Yes, I've got a bit of an issue with the way the AI drivers tend to act like you're not there. And I dislike the way that you seem to get penalised even if you're the victim of a collision. But again, that's something that's been in the Formula 1 games for a long time. So let's go and get ourselves in the pit lane. Again, that hitching almost caused me to go into the pit barrier there. So what I want to demonstrate here, we're going to drive down and get into our pit lane, which all happened quite fast. I'm surprised we didn't run the Jackman over there, but... So what you have to do, and again, it does add to the experience, it all adds to the immersion, which is what the game is supposed to be about at the end of the day. But we're going to get wheeled backwards into the pit lane. Now, I would like at this point maybe to have a look what my lap time was, to see where the other cars are on the grid. I can't do any of that. I've got to wait until there's the monitor, but I still can't interact with the monitor because they're putting the tyre covers on. So I've got to wait for that. There we go, the tyre covers are now on. Now they've got to plug them into the heaters, so... Yep, they've plugged them in, and there we go. Now we can actually get back into the information. So I think that whole process could be streamlined and sped up a little bit. I think that's a little bit slow and unnecessarily clunky, but all in all, I would say if you like racing games, and particularly if you like Formula 1 games, then I can recommend this game. As I've said before, I generally don't play racing games on the PC. I normally play them on a console, but playing this on a PC with an Xbox controller, the experience is pretty much the same, although I very much doubt that we would see that hitching on the consoles. I'll put my hands up right now and say it could just be an issue with my system, but it's not normally a problem that I have on other games. And You know, I play some games that are pretty processor, memory, and graphically intensive, and I've not had the issue on those. So I really do think it might be an issue, an optimization issue with this game itself. But it's jam-packed with features. It looks good, it sounds good, it's a lot of fun to play. If you want to start yourself a championship and play through as yourself, you know, create your own little avatar and play through, you can do all that in there. If you just want to go and have a quick race against the AI, if you want to jump in and play against other people on Steam, it's a really, really fun thing. It's currently £39.99 British pounds on Steam, which is probably about, I don't know, $55, $60, something like that. Not too sure what the conversion rate is. And it is by Codemasters. This is Formula 1 2016. I'll see you guys on the next video. Until then, goodbye for now.